Hi, I'm Jonathan Louderback. This is the Loudest Crow.
I'm Genevieve.
I'm Justin Kroh, and we're here to caw through the noise. Welcome.
Hi.
Welcome to the podcast.
Man, John, we are on a roll. Because
Yeah?
last week we were mansplaining the whole time, and now we have a second woman on the podcast. It's
No.
Were we mansplaining?
amazing. No.
But like, who do we have last
We
week?
had AJ.
AJ. Yeah.
We had AJ.
That makes sense. Yeah, we're
We're mansplaining. We're mansplaining Overwatch to AJ.
mansplaining to AJ.
Really, they were mansplaining to me because I don't play Overwatch.
Fair.
That is true. Like we were talking about Overwatch, just like,
Yeah.
and you were like, "Yes, I know what this is."
Reinhardt.
Reinhardt.
Mercy.
Man, I'm not. I don't really want to get too deep into the rabbit hole, but this makes me sad. That game.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about that because
Yeah.
it's just kind of like.
You put it in the description that we talked about it, but we're sad about it.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you don't have very much to say about Overwatch, which is like...
I feel like y'all probably talked enough about it.
We probably have, to be honest.
But like, it's your crush's favorite game.
It's what?
Maddie!
Oh, I was like, which one? Which one?
Which one?
I thought you meant the real one, and I was like,
wait a minute, what's
no,
happening
I don't
here?
know if she's actually played Overwatch at all.
Wait,
Um,
wait, Maddie's not the real one?
Man.
Are you announcing that in front of everybody on the podcast?
No.
Oh, man.
Okay, now wait a minute. It's all jokes.
It's all slander.
It's all jokes.
Man, this
I don't know
reminds...
which part is jokes, but maybe all of it.
So I hate this terminology, but this reminds me of a negative Riz moment I had on my KC trip. So...
Oh yeah, you hate Riz, the word Riz.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you used the word Riz. That's so great.
But we were in the car, we were getting ready to go to the city market in Kansas City. And the girl in the back, she's like, so Justin, what do you play? Because I mentioned I like instruments. Not instruments, music composition.
Okay.
And I said, Minecraft. I did not connect the dots at all. And then like 5 minutes later, I was like, hey, would you ask me what I played? Were you talking about instruments? And she was like, yeah.
Minecraft. That's my favorite instrument.
You bust out a video of you sort of making a song with the note blocks.
Is Minecraft an instrument? No, Justin, Minecraft is not an instrument.
I don't know the rest of the quote.
It's SpongeBob stuff.
Horseradish isn't an instrument either.
Well, I know exactly what you're referencing.
Oh, I know.
Mayonnaise
I'm
one.
like, yep, that do be SpongeBob.
Mayonnaise, that do be SpongeBob. I know, like, I could, like, point out, like, if you were to show me a meme, I'd be like, I know that meme, but I wouldn't be able to tell you where it's from.
Oh, I forgot earrings today. This is tragic.
Huh?
I forgot earrings.
Oh, I thought you were talking about me. I thought you were talking to me.
No, I just noticed that I didn't have my earrings.
Men with earrings, go. Are they good?
Yes.
Better
Well,
than,
no, it
better
depends.
than men without.
It depends.
Joking.
It depends which ones you're putting in. Much like, men with shirts, good or not. Well, like, if they're wearing a good if they're wearing
Earrings
a good
are
shirt.
equivalent to shirts. Got it. Now I feel shame for going out without my earrings. Thank you.
Do you not have...
So,
I
you know
have my
what?
normal earrings, but I don't have like my dangly ones that are
your
usually
loopies?
fun.
Okay.
I usually have like a big fun earring. I could have worn my skulls because that would have gone with the shirt.
Okay.
But, like, yeah.
I'm vibing with you
Yeah.
laying down. So those are called studs, right?
Yeah, these are all my studs. I keep those in at all times.
But to
basically.
make sure that it doesn't close, is that right? I don't know.
It's just kind of like I don't feel like taking them out every night and then putting them back in,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not that uncomfortable to sleep on.
Interesting. I'm
So
sure you
yeah,
get used
I
to
also
it.
keep my nose ring in at all times.
Sometimes like it's really interesting if you get the right stud. You almost like choose if you have like an earring or not. Like if you get the right.
Yeah,
tone.
there's clear ones. I saw someone at a shop somewhere.
It's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Good job. You saw someone at a shop.
Wait, I'm trying to think.
I feel like-
It was at Silver Dollar City because I was like, I noticed it because she had to be in like character. So that's why I noticed that she was wearing a clear stud because I was like, she's got to wear that because she's got to be in character or whatever.
That's pretty cool that you can do that. I think the one kind of body modification, well, besides tattoos, that you couldn't do that with, like gauges. Like you couldn't just like choose not to wear gauges that day.
Yeah,
You know-
your gauges are like permanently altering the shape of your ears. So
But
like,
it's like past a certain point though, right? Like you can go so big or something.
mm-hmm.
I forget what it is. My sister really wanted gauges whenever she was younger. She got them put in, and then like the ears shrink back into them.
They do shrink at until you get to a certain point. You're right. Yeah.
It's really cool. Like if
Yeah.
you think about it, it doesn't leave a scar.
Huh.
I mean, it leaves just as much of a scar as if you have an earring that or a piercing that closes.
But like
up.
less than a scar than you would think.
Yes.
Because like it wasn't small. It was like that.
Oh
like,
wow,
you know what I mean?
That's impressive. I didn't think it would shrink from there.
I might be wrong. That's why. Of course, whenever I was younger, the gauges looked like, wow,
Massive,
that's so
yeah.
big, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, I didn't know your sister had gauges.
She was a punk. Like she straight up. She was a like literally
That's
like
amazing.
she had different colored hair every month.
Okay, now you're coming for me.
No, but like
I was about to say,
but back before it was a standard, right?
Oh.
She were really like she was like MCR.
Oh my gosh.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
You know
She
like
was
that.
like the OGs.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
Like she was like standard setting, and then she got to high school and became a Valley girl, which I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy because I always knew her as a Valley girl, and I was like,
Of course, she's a Valley girl. Her name was Savannah.
Well, this also went to Glendale.
yeah.
I get the joke, by the way, but
Thank you.
you know, like Glendale definitely. It's
I
like
got it a little bit too late. This is
Glendale is like probably as close as you can get to like stereotypical like high school, like a movie high school,
Yeah, like sitcom high school, yeah.
like sitcom
Yeah.
high school demographics.
white girl high schooler.
Yeah, you know what you know.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we were in a freaking snow globe, dude. Like
Huh?
I want to say like at least 80, if not 90% of our student body was white.
Oh, snow globe.
Oh
okay.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. It's not more, to be honest. Like
It was a huge amount of. Well, Springfield, Missouri is just like.
it's pretty
hugely
bad.
white.
It's like I think like of cities with over 100,000 people, we're like the second most white city.
Missouri is extremely.
We're
white.
not on the
like
top.
St.
We're not
Louis
even,
and Kansas City are the only things that change as a state, our demographics less white. Because if you go anywhere else, it is so.
that's
so
just
white.
the Midwest too.
Yeah.
You know, it really is. I mean, you still in the rural South, you still see plenty of African Americans because like a lot of sharecroppers didn't leave, and they kind of slowly,
Sure.
like they just over generations. But there was a great like influx of immigrants to all the big cities.
Yeah.
During the Great Depression, all black.
Even before that.
And yeah, even before that, but then they had that great influx, and then have you guys heard about white flight?
Yeah.
Like the white people left the cities
Yeah,
because of racism.
Because of racism, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why you've got like places like Baltimore, which is very much mostly black. They haven't had a white mayor. They've had like one white mayor in the past 15 years
Mm-hmm.
or something. I'm watching The Wire, so I'm like paying attention to Baltimore a little bit. And I've become one of those people that is like, The Wire is so good. Why hasn't everybody watched it?
That's really funny.
It's
Everyone
hilarious.
Like, if you like Breaking Bad, you like The Wire. There's like a bit of
It's
that.
yeah, and I do. I love Breaking Bad, and I'm watching The Wire, and it is so good.
What's it even about?
It's about Baltimore City Police, and it kind of touches on like racism, police brutality, the drug empires there, and it's got 5 seasons, which is I think the perfect amount for a show because both Breaking Bad and The Wire have 5 seasons and they're all good. But like, it basically just follows the West Baltimore Police Department and like a few people there, and it's good.
Yeah.
Talking about like shows having 5 seasons, I think you're right. Like that's a perfect number. 'Cause
I agree.
Any more, like it just runs out of ideas and gets weird.
I feel like if they're trying to push themselves to go too long, and it's just kind of like it gets bad after
Yeah.
that.
And then any less, you don't really have enough time to tell a super compelling story.
I feel like you can have fewer seasons and still be really good and still be able to tell your whole story.
Well, like Gravity
it's
Falls,
just
for
like
example.
Gravity Falls
Yeah.
had 2 seasons, phenomenal. But it's kind of like it really just comes to 5 seasons is the maximum. I feel like for a really really good show.
I think it does depend a little bit on the nature of the narrative.
Absolutely.
Like, episodic shows can go on for longer.
Sure.
Especially, like, I think the spoofier the idea, the longer. Like, Phineas and Ferb, I think, had, like...
Oh, sure. Yeah,
lot
like,
of
I feel like
seasons.
with... I don't know, I don't want to say, like, more sophisticated shows, but, like,
Well, it's
kind
kind
of
more traditional narrative.
more, timeline-based or, like, big overarching plot-based shows shouldn't go on.
Serialized shows?
Huh?
Serialized shows?
I'm not sure that's the term.
I don't think that's the term. Just, like, shows like Breaking Bad that have, like, one storyline and just, like, go over that.
I get fatigued sometimes. I remember I really enjoyed what I watched. I was watching Better Call Saul.
I haven't watched it yet because I kind of am rewatching Breaking Bad instead. So
It's
yeah.
worth a dive into. I really enjoyed what I've seen. I want to watch the rest of it. But I got like halfway through the 3rd season. I'm like, man, this show just like is so intense.
It's
all the
emotionally
time.
exhausting
I'm
to
like-
watch Breaking
like,
Bad and Better Call Saul. I'm sure
It's
like
not
so,
relaxing. You get up from the couch. You're like, oh my god.
Yeah, no,
especially
it's
if you
so
job.
intense. Oh my gosh, the point I'm at in Breaking Bad in my rewatch is like, It's where it gets so intense all the time. And it's just kind of like, I'm so glad that I get such long breaks because of the person that I'm watching with.
I need my dad. So I
need my dad.
Sorry, no, but I got, for Father's Day, I got for my dad a Netflix card, right? Because we've never had Netflix because my parents have been against streaming services for a long time.
Oh my god, they need to get with the times.
Exactly.
It's only streaming services now.
Exactly.
Oh,
and so my dad, the excuse he's using right now is, oh, well, we're trying to get fiber optic internet, and then we can do it.
Oh, we just got fiber.
Well, okay, the fiber company is just totally screwing us over.
Oh yeah, they were being...
Yeah.
Where are you guys getting it through?
Brightspeed stinks. Anyway, but we're trying to get that solved, and then he says after that he'll use a Netflix card that I got for him. But I so want to watch Breaking Bad because so many of my friends have been talking about it.
Yeah, you should.
And
it will be exhausting to watch. It will be emotionally taxing, but it is very, very good.
Very good. Very good to hear.
It's just one of those shows I feel like it's a cultural touchdown. You spill a little bit?
Yeah, I was trying to shake it because of the...
Look how it got sprinkled.
Dude,
like,
I know.
my
Your rug
brother-
is very interesting.
it's pretty interesting.
It didn't... My bad. I'm just worst guest.
It'll just add more character to the rug.
More character. Yay.
Okay, well, while you're doing that, yesterday I started getting recommended these like rug cleaning videos.
Yeah.
They're so satisfying.
Oh yeah.
Like they'll have this like ancient rug that's like covered in mold, and like sometimes they'll have grass growing from them.
Oh yeah, I've seen those videos. Those are trending on the internet.
Yeah, and then there's this one
It's
guy.
just all of the satisfying cleaning videos. Power washing is another one.
Like mountain rug cleaning is what it was called. It was so satisfying.
That's fair.
I loved it.
What were we saying?
Breaking Bad.
A few steps ago, though, we like derailed.
I forget. Baltimore, like the makeup of the race of
Okay,
our city.
wait. Oh yeah, we were talking about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How whitey tidy we are. Yeah. Man, that reminds me. Back like 3rd, 4th grade, I went to like this summer program called Spark.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that because my parents couldn't afford to stay home with me, and they didn't want to hire anyone, and they didn't want me to stay home a lot. So I did that, and we went swimming a lot. We went swimming like twice a week, and we'd always have to go to the boys' bathroom when we were done to change and all that. And I hated waiting because people take forever in the stalls. So I would just sit there on the floor, strip naked, and slip on my tidy whities, and everyone would like go, "Ew, girl, Justin, what are you doing?" every time, but they wouldn't like go as far as to try and stop me because they knew they couldn't. And so, so I would just slip on my tidy whities in front of everyone, and no shame
Did you not,
whatsoever.
Turn away from them or anything?
No, I just sat there on the floor, took them
Why
off.
would you sit? That's.
How old were you at this point?
I dislike the
9,
idea of
10.
sitting bare ass on a public bathroom floor.
Yeah.
That is horrifying.
Yeah,
I
no
respect your
shame.
bravery.
Like I'm not even or horrified by the no shame or like changing in front of people. Whatever, who cares? You're a kid. The bare ass on the public bathroom floor.
You're just concerned about my health.
Genuinely, like you could have caught some.
You could have gotten like all of the diseases.
What are you talking about? I was covered in chlorine. I was good.
Yeah, this fine layer of it. So it's really funny
Oh my
because
gosh.
I'll hug Randy from time to time. And I'll still smell chlorine on her because she was a swimmer.
That's
Like it literally, I
crazy.
still it's crazy. Like it seeps into your skin. Like her
It
nails
stays
are
with
weak.
you forever.
Yes, her nails are weak because she's been in the pool for so often. It breaks down her.
I am concerned about my little sister because she's getting into swimming a lot.
It's like not gonna kill you, but it's
I know,
definitely
but it's like.
I was thinking about this yesterday because I was rock climbing and I was sweating and stuff. And I was like, I forgot to put on deodorant. Wait, my deodorant is antiperspirant, which means it has aluminum. And some studies are coming out saying that
Oh, I've heard about those.
aluminum, when it gets into your system, is linked with
Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's. And I'm like,
Because you forgot your deodorant because it's got aluminum in it. Oh my god, you have Alzheimer's.
Well, it's one of those things where it's like you don't see it till older age. But I read that same study, and I've tried out a few deodorants that are like aluminum free.
Mm-hmm.
They don't do anything.
You just have to get the right kind, I think. The stuff that I use does have no aluminum, and it's like it's a nicer, healthier word. And it sticks around for a long time. I like it a lot.
I'll do a bit more shopping around.
And it's got nice smells.
well, what my psychology teacher told us was, don't worry about sweating. It's natural. Just get something that's really good at masking the scent, and you're fine. So.
Yeah. That's why you wear a good deodorant and a nice, like, low-key cologne.
Yeah, cologne is a game changer, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I'm super weird, and I want to get into perfume making.
Interesting.
A little bit.
Okay, I also had just a couple weeks ago. I suddenly wanted to get into perfume making too.
Yes. Okay. So
Yeah.
like, I was like so dissatisfied with my. Okay, so I don't have a good perfume because perfume itself is so expensive.
Yes.
If you want like a specific smell, and I'm kind of particular about what smell I want, but I only have like those body sprays, and those things are so weak they last for like 2 minutes. And so I want something that actually lasts and smells nice and doesn't smell like chemicals. So I'm being. But the problem here is I either have to try and order online some perfumer's alcohol or buy Everclear. And I am not 21, so I cannot buy Everclear.
Wait, so like, is that the same level of like alcohol content?
Basically, the recommendation is get the strongest liquor that you can because you.
Well, yeah,
like,
the alcohol is
rubbing-
what makes that's what makes the scent stay.
But you can't use like rubbing alcohol or other things that have that higher alcohol content because they have such a strong smell. Then that will be really counterproductive. But basically, the way it works is like you add your alcohol, you add like your oils or whatever, and you add your smells.
So you, like, put
And
the
then
actual,
you like kind of ferment it for like a few days, up to like a week, I think. And then like that, it'll all like mush together into like this nice smell, and then you can use that. And that will kind of like let the alcohol smell kind of go away and become more one with the smell that you actually want to spray on yourself.
Interesting.
So yeah.
But like one of the reasons I got obsessed with the idea of like starting like a perfume and cologne business was
A
like
business? Okay, you're going way further. I just want to make some for myself.
well the reason I was thinking about it was because I was in scheming mode, and I was like, okay, if we're talking about like worth per like
Okay, with
weight
the margins.
of perfume and cologne, well I'm just talking about like a bottle this big of like good cologne can cost like $1,000.
Well, like, you're talking
can.
like designer brand though.
That's like designer brands.
But-
like,
right. So there's a small difference. Like
Yeah, but like
let's be generous and say like you get to a point where you could sell that for $80.
like that's still really
That's
good.
still insane.
That's insane. Like
yeah,
if you just
because,
mix
like,
the
you
right
just have,
things
like,
together.
essential oils that cost like $10 for an entire thing, and you use that like a bajillion times, and that's only one of your smells, and like so like
Yeah, no, 100%. It is actually a racket.
perfumers alcohol, the ethanol that goes into it is a little bit more of the expensive part. If you want to get high quality alcohol for your perfumes,
But you gotta know
that's
like
that's the more expensive
like
part.
the actual like name brands. They're getting that stuff on the cheap.
Oh yeah,
Not like they're getting the
absolutely.
cheap
But
stuff.
you kind of have to get like a certain license to be able to have like the bulk purchasing.
Which
powers.
makes sense because they're gonna think you're moonshining or something. You know?
I
Oh,
gotta-
please don't drink that. That stuff
Well,
is.
dude, people
You're
were
shipping
people
crate of
were
alcohol.
people were like distilling furniture.
Oh my
finish.
gosh, yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that.
Impression. Like people were wild.
I remember that as if I was there. I
Man.
remember learning about that.
But
I remember when people were drinking furniture.
No, there's some pretty crazy businesses. out
I'm
there
really old, guys.
that have some crazy.
Can't buy alcohol, but I
I
remember
see what you're
that.
saying. I see what you're saying. I was there.
I was there.
I was moonshining in the forest of Missouri.
Sorry. Oh my gosh.
You know, did you know that like right outside the coast of like our national waters, there was like during the entirety of
Prohibition.
Prohibition, there was like a fleet of ships that they couldn't dock with their liquor, so they'd get right to the edge of international waters, and then
That's so
they
funny.
people would rowboats out, buy their liquor, and then bring it back to the states.
Well, did you know that
Amazing.
Canadian like whiskey and stuff was like the most smuggled into the U.S. So like Canadian alcohol like liquors were like really popular in the States.
Yeah, but America didn't stop drinking. You just had to like. Get
Oh no,
creative.
they never stopped drinking.
Yeah.
Canada as a country fascinates me. It just does, right? Because like what is it, like 90% of the population live within like, what is it like?
Oh, inside the Ottawa, Montreal region.
Well, not even that, but just like within like an hour's drive of the U.S. Like so many
yeah.
of them live like
they
right
just live
there.
on like the bottom strip of.
Well, yeah, because like if you remember the geography, there's the Hudson Bay over here. There's this little landmass, and then there's the I forget what the river that is that feeds into it, but there's this little river valley. That's where most of their population is.
And they live on the Great Lakes.
Yes, and they live in the Great Lakes. And besides that, the only other major population center is on the other side, in English Columbia,
British Columbia.
British Columbia,
BC.
Vancouver, and all that area.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically it.
Like I got a friend who lives in Alberta, in Edmonton, which is like one of like the furthest north cities with like any sizable
Interesting.
population.
Mm-hmm.
And so And like in the winter, he'll talk to me about, oh, it was like -50 degrees Fahrenheit today. And I was like, whoa.
Crazy.
But like,
I want to live in a wintry place because of the fashion, though. Because I would be able to layer
You,
more.
oh my god, I've been feeling it this summer. I've been like, I want to be able to layer. I want to wear clothes that I like. I'm tired of wearing the same shirt with a different t-shirt and my shorts and my stupid, messed up white Fila's. I'm tired of wearing this outfit. I've been wearing it all summer.
I've watched this one YouTube channel who was talking about like cities that are growing in size and shrinking in size.
You're just like,
Well, I'm sure there's
right
going to be a
over.
connection.
There is going to be a connection.
Okay.
And the connection was people are moving into hotter cities. And I'm like, why? Like, no, seriously, because I want to move somewhere cold.
I want to move somewhere that's like mild because I don't like coats.
Well, like,
You and I have talked about
love
this.
coats.
I hate coats.
I love poofy coats. I don't cozy.
I have body issues, so like if I look too big because my coat is huge, I'm like, I take up so much space and I wish to shrink.
I do understand that.
I feel like, though, to be fair, like, if you were in the cold place for long enough, like, you'd probably just, like, due to survival, just, like, stop caring. You'd be like, you know what?
Sure, but I don't want to live in a super cold place. I want to live in a place that has like the right amount of layering needs.
I get what you
can
mean.
layer, or I can wear something slightly warmer
Did-
that just like doesn't need layers. So
Did you know that in New York, the avenues, like, especially in downtown, like, because, like, you have all these super tall buildings and these straight roads, the wind picks up really, really super high speeds. And,
that's
like,
why big cities are very windy. I'm aware of that. Chicago is the windy city because it's right on a lake, and the big buildings will make it super windy.
it was like these wind tunnels.
And
Like,
it's so cold. It was chilly in the city in the summer. Like I was there for last summer, and it was cold some days. I would be like, oh my gosh, I came to the city for a weekend, and I'm like, kind of chilly here. I've been in the sun.
That's
so
how you layer right there.
yeah, but until I got to the park, like Millennium Park, I was roasting alive because it's so open there. So like I was
Yeah, it doesn't have the same wind.
and the bean was reflecting the sun directly into my soul. So
The
The
bee.
bee.
Oh yeah,
The
the
bee.
bee.
Yes.
He doesn't call it that. Like
no, it's called Cloudgate.
Randy was telling me about that guy.
The artist hates the name The Bean.
Yeah, he's kind of one of those guys. Apparently, he like has like the blackest black paint.
Oh yeah,
Like that's his.
Yeah, no, he had it, but then there was another one that there's been one since he was able to like.
Good.
Yeah, no, he took the blackest black paint and was like, nobody else can have it. It is mine and mine alone.
People just made blacker paint. And I'm like, haha.
Pretty
and
much.
somebody made one that was darker than his, and he's like.
Yeah. He's kind of a so what he did, one of his art exhibits, he built like a cylindrical hole into the ground and then painted the inside of it with that paint, so it just looked like a spot on the ground. Somebody fell in it and got hurt, and he was like, "Bro,
It's just
Skill
art.
issue.
yeah,
It's just art, my guy.
it's just art, my guy. Come on."
You're having a significant experience with a work of art. Don't stop complaining about those broken knees, man, and just live it out.
Oh my gosh.
You get to say you're the one that fell into my artwork.
You fell in my hole.
You made a smudge in my art. Gosh.
Dude.
It's a smear of blood.
Man, you weren't supposed to get blood in my hole,
Are you
dude.
gonna pay for that?
You can pay for the damages to my hole.
Or you gonna pay for the damage?
Man, I didn't know my hole was that deep.
Oh my
Oh
gosh.
no! I feel like this can go dangerously in a different direction, and we need to
Definitely.
go. We need to move on
Yeah,
quick.
we have reached the peak of the joke, and now we need to like leave it gracefully. You know, we need to like
Yeah.
let it simmer,
Let it die.
let it die, not die. that dance is iconic, man.
Let it die, let it die.
Yeah, cover it, man. Careful.
Yeah, we're making bank off of this, right?
Yeah.
Where's my paycheck?
I would be surprised if we
How
made
much
a
can I
single
expect?
cent.
How much can I expect from this?
When
can I expect my check?
1/3 of 1 cent.
1/3 of 1 cent, yes.
When can I expect my check in the mail?
We're gonna get a pizza cutter and roll it over a penny and.
Yeah, we'll get there eventually.
We'll get there.
Man.
Oh my god.
Cents are weird. Because with how expensive things are getting, it's just like, we don't use cents.
Dude, like, the only
very
reason
often.
you should use change nowadays, if you want to do exact change, or if you want to save it up to get bills later, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you have a change jar.
Okay, so I have tips at work, and I literally leave the change in my envelope until I can make it into $1, because I don't want change.
It's like, what do you do with it? You know?
Yeah.
It is just,
Honestly, when I leave, I love my last shift on Saturday, so I'll probably put my change in the tip jar and just be like, the next person can have it.
Yeah.
There's a Teen Titans Go episode. Sorry, I'm on random tangent mode today. There's a Teen Titans Go episode where, like, they took pennies and figured out that, like, the materials in the penny were worth more than the penny.
Yeah.
So they melted down the pennies and the government started coming after them. In Teen Titans Go, dude.
Why
No,
were you
Teen Titans
watching
Go
Teen
is
Titans
okay.
Go, though?
Listen, unironically, like, I just catch glimpses of, like, what, like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
is like you're over a relative's house or somebody's
Yeah,
watching it,
sure.
the kids are watching it. Like, it actually kind of tackles really mature themes for some reason.
That's because it's a Teen Titans show, and like
Yes.
they're trying to keep the Teen Titans without actually being decent.
Like,
Well, I
there's
think
one
what it
episode-
is, the creators are like, so we can't make regular Teen Titans. We're just gonna make this, like, it's like subversive in like one of the best ways I've seen.
Yeah,
like,
no,
genuinely.
Yeah.
There's a whole episode where they're just like, hey, we're going to buy an apartment and we're going to learn about equity.
What?
And then, like, they do all the paperwork for it, and they have to evict people, and it's like,
Speaking
It's
of
amazing.
speaking of adulting things, I finally got the plates, my permanent plates on my car.
Hey, there
and
you
I
go.
didn't know how it worked at all. So I was like, I went in there not expecting to like be able to get my plates at all yesterday. So I had way too much stuff. I had like my social security card. I had like all of these documents to prove that I was me and that I deserved to have this car. And so I waited for like an hour, and then I went up to the lady and I'm like, here's my things. Please give me the permanent plates for my car. And she's like, you need tax documents for property tax documents for
Oh, the
2022.
assessment?
And I was just like, that's fine. I didn't have any property in 2022, therefore I don't need any documents. And she's like,
No,
false.
you need to get a waiver. Yeah.
You need a waiver. And I was
Mhm.
just like, okay, how do I do that? And she's like, call these people. And I was just like, cool. And I was just like, how long will that take? And she's
Yeah.
like, shrug, you can come back later.
She
was like, she did say, you can skip the line if you come back. If you go do that and then come back. Like, you can skip the line and just come back and be like, hello, I have my waiver, and get your stuff done. So I wouldn't have to wait in the line for another hour. But the thing is, I had work in half an hour at that point, across town. So I was like, can I get this done? And I did. I was so proud of myself. I only got to work like 2 minutes late,
I mean, that's reasonable.
but it's fine.
Like, within 5 minutes, 5 minutes early or 5 minutes late is just on time.
Yeah.
I think.
So I was able to call the assessors.
Yeah.
Or the collectors.
It's the assessment.
The assessors,
No,
yeah.
because there were two offices. I think it was the collector's office. And they were like, okay, you need to make an account. I will transfer you to the assessors. And I was like, okay. And then I went to the assessors, and they were like, hello, what would you like? And I was like, I'd like to make an account, I guess. And they were like, okay, we'll do that. And then they transferred me back to the collectors, and I was like, I would like my waiver, please. And so I was just on my phone in the car in the parking lot of the license office, and she had me she was emailing me the stuff I needed, and I was emailing her pictures of my title and stuff, and it went really
Internet.
quickly. It was the most efficient encounter with the government I've ever had.
It's not bad. It really
And
isn't.
just being able to do all of that really quickly, being transferred, all of that was so quick over the phone.
I was about to say,
and then I was able to go back in line or go back inside and be like, "Hello, I have my waiver," and they were able to just hand me those 2 plates, and I was just like, "You guys just have a stack back there?" I thought I was gonna have to wait for them to come in the mail or something. So yeah, I actually have solid plates on my car now.
I was so surprised that you were able to do that over the phone.
I know. I was shocked. I was like, she was like, you're gonna have to go down to the courthouse, and I was just like,
See, because that's what they told me. They, when I did this last year, they were like, you gotta go to the courthouse. And I was like, okay. So I went to the courthouse, and I got...
I'm so glad I
don't
didn't
know.
go to the courthouse because I hate the courthouse.
The only thing I hate about the courthouse is the parking.
The only thing I hate about the courthouse is everything. I don't like the employees. They're so mean. They're so mean.
They are?
Yes. When I took my driver's test, they were so mean. They were like yelling at
Oh.
me for nothing.
Okay.
I literally, they made me cry and then continued yelling at me as I was crying.
Okay.
I have courthouse trauma.
See, I didn't take my driver's test in Springfield, so that's why. Anytime
I
I go to
took
the
my
courthouse,
driver's
it's just-
test in Springfield twice, had 2 evil people fail me for very little. I shouldn't have failed that second time, especially. And the lady was just so mean. And she was just so bitter. And so she failed me. And so then I went and took my test in Nixa, I believe.
That's where I took mine.
And the guy there, any criticism that he gave me over my driving was, it felt like constructive criticism rather than like trying to hurt me. Whereas every critique on my driving that the other people had felt like a personal attack. And it wasn't like I was being overly sensitive. It was just the way that they framed it. And it was just kind of like, y'all don't need to be personally mean to me. You guys can just say, hey, here's the points you got off, and here's why. Here's what you can do to do better in the next time. And that's what this guy did. He was just like, here's, you did really great, but there was the one point where you were like, you should have done this instead of that, and, just so you know for the future, here's your driver's license.
That's exactly
and
what
I was
it did
just
for me,
like,
Nixon.
thank you, sir. And I was really scared that, because like I got a guy and I was like, oh gosh, I'm scared of men. Because,
I wonder why.
Yeah, me too. No, but he was fantastic. I feel like I'm gonna get canceled on the internet here, but I feel like
That's us like every day. Don't worry.
I feel like women in small positions of power can be some of the meanest women on earth. Because, like, the people at the DMV, they have so little power, and they're going to abuse it, and they're going to be spiteful and mean and just overly aggressive. And it's the same with, there was this state trooper whenever I got into my car accident. She was just mean. And I was just sitting there, like, shell-shocked, like, sobbing my eyes out on the side of the highway because I had just wrecked my car. And I was 30 minutes away from Rolla. I was so far away from Springfield. I was out in the middle of nowhere, and I was so overwhelmed.
That's almost exactly where I got into a car wreck too.
I know.
Yeah.
I got into my wreck in St. Robert.
And Robert, okay.
So yeah, right outside of Waynesville. Luckily I was actually in a town, basically. But yeah, she was just so mean, and she gave me a ticket that I didn't deserve. Like, she gave me, like, this really excessive, like, ticket for my accident. Like, yes, the accident was mostly my fault. There were also some environmental and observational issues. Like, there was an honest mistake that I made while driving, which was just that I thought they were still moving when they were not. Because of the rain, I hydroplaned, so, like, it was partially my fault, partially not my fault. I still, like, accepted responsibility with the insurance and everything. But we ended up getting a lawyer, and she contested the ticket and was like, hey, she does not deserve jail time for getting into a car accident where nobody got hurt. And the only car that was severely damaged was her own. So, like,
That is eerily similar to my accident.
yeah, so, like,
Minus the rain.
yeah. So, like, the lawyer that we got contested it, and I ended up not getting any points on my license because she was phenomenal, which is not what I expected. I was expecting to, like, have to pay for the consequences. I was fully accepting responsibility for things, and I was like, yes, I will have points on my license. It will suck, but I will deal with it. But, like, the lawyer was just fantastic lady.
I was surprised I did not get a ticket in my accident because I was kind of like Leo. I was like, yeah, no, it was me. Well, in my little insurance booklet, it says not to do that. If it was your fault,
yeah.
just don't say anything.
Yeah, that's what everybody's, like, giving me that advice. Just don't tell them that it was. Don't ever accept responsibility. I was like, but, like, they did nothing wrong here. But I guess it was just like I should have been like, the rain. Woo.
Well, see, in my situation, it was weird because I had been checking my blind spot, like, almost in an exaggerated fashion the whole trip. And then I saw a funny blackboard, and my friend and I started laughing at it.
Yeah, I know the exact billboard that you're talking about.
Yeah, not blackboard, billboard, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's a black billboard.
It's a
yeah. With white paint on it that
Yes.
says these inflammatory statements.
Yes.
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
you know exactly the one.
I know.
And-
Elijah points it out every time.
And so while we were driving, I was like, okay, I need to focus on the road. And there's someone in front of us, and I don't want to rear end them, so I'm going to get over and pass them. And then, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Life
Yeah.
happened.
Life happened. Well, because
Yeah.
I checked my mirror, didn't see anyone, started getting over. So, and our cars didn't hit. It was
That's
It was
crazy.
us
It was
trying to
all panic.
swerve out of each other's way. Yeah, and then lost control because it overcorrected
Yeah.
and stuff happened.
Oh my gosh. I've been in a couple close calls when I wasn't driving. My ex was driving at one point, and she swerved, and it was the middle of the night because somebody was being insane and felt like they were trying to drive us off the road. And there's been a time that we swerved really bad, and it was terrifying.
Remember the time on the way home from the St. Louis trip, and I was like, I drove on the wrong
Oh my
side
gosh!
of the road
Yeah,
for a
you were
second.
so tired.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, straight up.
It was
empty.
on the
Like
we
that-
were exiting off of the highway, and it was towards Elijah's house. So
So it was really weird. It's a really weird little intersection thing.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
like,
it was just such a wide intersection, and he started driving into the wrong
yes
area because he was left turning in towards.
And there were no cars on the road, luckily, so it was totally fine. But I was.
But it was night, so you were wasn't it night?
Yeah, it was. We had just been to the mall all day,
Yeah, so we came into town at night.
and then we were tired when we left, and then we were tired the entire drive back, and then we got back at 10ish.
So you were on Highway 65, and you were turning left onto Sunshine from there?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I know. Yeah.
If that had been daytime, that'd be a different story.
Oh yeah, no, that would have been a big deal.
It's just life happens. Because here's the thing,
Life happens, yeah.
I think about it sometimes when I'm on the road. I'm like, there are so many people who have cars, and it really isn't hard to get a license. You know what I mean? It's I don't necessarily. Whenever I started driving, I
We're
didn't
just talking about
necessarily
the fact that I took 3 tries to get my license, but yeah, it's not that hard.
I didn't whenever I started driving, I didn't feel.
No, that wasn't meant to be sarcastic.
I didn't feel qualified.
Yeah.
I was like,
because of how many. Yeah, no, I felt way too powerful whenever I had my car. I was just like, I have a weapon of mass destruction under my control.
I mean, it's a 2-ton death machine, so I've always thought about it.
That's exactly what you told me, yeah, when I got my license.
Yeah,
Yeah.
is it really? Did I tell you that? Yeah.
Yeah, I remember driving alone for the first time. I was I was picking up my partner at the time, and I remember just being I remember turning to my passenger seat and not having my mom there and being like, oh,
It's empty.
darn. And just being like, well, that sucks. Now I have to drive this thing without her being like, slow down.
Yeah.
Man.
God, my mom was so anxious and horrible to drive around.
Yeah.
I thought my mom would be the super anxious one and my dad would be the cool-headed one. No.
That's
my
so
dad
funny.
was so terrified every time I was at the wheel and he was trying to help me.
I thought it would be the same way too. I thought my dad would be like, but he's got no emotions.
So I mostly drove with Donnie, and he drives trucks for a living, so he does it professionally. So he's really just laissez-faire about it. He's like, yes, get merge. I'm like, what? Just merge? What do you mean?
Just merge?
Just merge.
Oh my god, I had to go on the highway for a moment for my driver's test whenever I actually got the license, and
Bro, I did downtown, so I didn't have to do that.
I think in Nixa you'd had to do that.
I didn't have to go on the highway in Nixa.
Okay, well maybe I don't know.
Depends on the instructor and that day.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, that's true because I had to do it twice and the route the second time was different than the first time.
Okay, so yeah, the route downtown was the same both times that I did it, so I didn't know if people did a different route. But yeah, I had to go on the highway for a moment, and I don't think I had to merge over. I think I was able to just stay in the same lane because it was just one exit down. But it was still terrifying going onto the highway with an instructor. I was just like, I'm gonna die. This might be the end of me.
Yeah.
I had barely driven highways at that point, and now I'm like, I'm going on the highway. Whee!
It's so just the standard.
It's so normal for me now because I live down the highway. So
And I'm getting that way too, and I've been that way because I've been I took the highway to school. It was
Yeah.
weird, and then going through town.
Yeah.
So, pretty much every morning I would be like, oh, time to hop on the highway. You know?
Well, we'd have very similar routes because we'd hop on 65, go to Chestnut, and go down.
I would sometimes do division, but then they had that. Cause for me, OTC was like you could like if you took division.
You're talking about that school. I was like, wait, why would you take the highway to Glendale?
Oh yeah.
I was like, what?
Yeah, you literally drive past it.
So you're so close.
You would literally drive past it.
Or you did live. Like your parents lived so close to Glendale. I was just like,
dude, it was nice.
Huh?
It was so nice. I would wake up like 10 minutes before
You'd have to
school.
go so far away from school just to pick me up and then go back to school.
It wasn't that bad. I really didn't mind that because it would always be dead in the mornings. I'm a morning person. I love the mornings.
love being. Okay,
I just can't wake up.
I am a morning person if I am like adjusted to it. And I love being a morning person. Like, my mom woke me up at, 8 this morning, and I was like, ah.
It's fun. I enjoy the quiet. I enjoy, the watching the world come to life. I enjoy how empty the roads are. I remember whenever I was doing ROTC just for a brief time there, I was trying to do PT at 5 a.m., which was very tough when you have a 20-minute drive. So I could wake up at 4:30. I'd wake up at 4:30, and, the world was just completely dead. And it was really, really nice.
You like watching the world come to life. I like watching the world die.
Early morning, very late drives, because it's so peaceful. I don't have to worry about the horrible people on the road.
Yeah.
In my first semester of college, I would be driving back and forth between Rolla and Springfield a lot, because surprise, surprise, my ex lived here. So I would drive to see her all the time. And so I would end up leaving here at 1 a.m. on a Sunday night when I had classes in the morning.
That's metal.
Because I was insane. And and so I would be driving, and it would be so quiet on the highway, and it was
nice.
It was just such a nice drive going back to Rolla. But yeah, it was so calm.
I remember on my KC trip, the ride up wasn't too bad traffic-wise. The ride back was so nice because the road was just empty. The only thing that wasn't nice is there were so many bugs. Don't take a road trip in the summer.
Yeah, no, I'm aware. I've driven to Rolla at night this summer, and it was so many bugs. And it was my brand new car, and I was just like,
it just gives you
my windshield.
Yeah. And when day came, I got to see the extent of the damage. There were these yellow streaks, and I was like,
ew.
Ugh.
Yeah, no, and there was it was all over my front bumper. I was just like, guys, leave me alone.
Yeah, no,
just driving
it was
here.
so bad, and
and they're just floating, and then they get fucking obliterated.
Yeah.
They are getting just annihilated.
My car is mildly inconvenienced, and they have lost their lives. But still, come on, guys.
They just need to get good, dude.
Just get good.
That'll skish you.
Skish you for real.
So I want to change the topic to something. I've just been really I've been geopolitical nerding out recently.
Recently?
For a long time. But recently, specifically about East Asia. Because I think that I've been learning a lot about it recently because, I've been really curious about China because, China's often represented nowadays as the replacement of the Soviet Union as this great existential threat that America is fighting. And I'm like, okay, how true is this?
Okay, but we're not actually doing anything to fight them.
We are.
Are we?
Not necessarily to fight, in a war sense, but posturing. It's we're in the early stages of a chess game where no pieces have been taken yet.
So you heard of VTubers?
VTubers are plants.
This episode...
Genshin Impact! It's Genshin Impact!
Unconventional warfare tactics.
Okay.
So, if you don't mind me giving a bit of context to what I'm thinking about, it's so China's greatest, from what I understand and what I've been learning recently, greatest geopolitical ambition, obviously, is the reconquest of Taiwan.
Sure.
And Taiwan is important to us because the majority of semiconductors for computers are made in Taiwan.
Those are really important.
They're very
Computer
important.
science gang.
And you'll think this is super interesting because it might actually affect you in your profession. But they're so critically important that the U.S. a year ago now passed a bill, I forget the name of it, where they pushed $2 billion worth of funding into developing semiconductor plants in the United States.
Ooh.
Because so the reason Taiwan is so critically important is because there are semiconductor plants other places.
Yeah.
But they are the most advanced. They are the most like they produce the most by far.
Yeah.
And we are light years behind.
Yeah.
So China obviously wants Taiwan, not only just for that, but also because
they're like, that's ours.
Exactly. But in a situation of a war, right? What would happen to the world economy if the majority of semiconductors in production were suddenly, destroyed because of like bombardment and invasion and shit? Because the Taiwanese have a prerogative, because all their techniques are secret, like trade secret.
Oh.
They have a prerogative where it's like straight up Kroh protocol, where it's like, okay, if we're getting invaded, we blow up the semiconductor plants.
That's metal.
Well, it makes sense. It's their
gosh.
deterrence. Like, think of the consequences.
That is their biggest play in the world. Like that in our global economy, that is their biggest play, and good for them.
It makes sense. I guess the question I kind of want to pose to you guys, and I'm down to talk more about it. I'm not an expert or anything, but I haven't read about it. It's like, say for example, China were to say 10 years time invade Taiwan, or even shorter. Would you support America trying to defend Taiwan and going to war with China over it?
I don't know. I don't.
First things
I know,
first.
big question.
First things first.
So it has been said by many people, if World War III happens, it's happening over Taiwan.
Interesting.
I need to declare something. I have a grievance with both of you. You said they would start blowing up semiconductor plants, and I said that's metal. Both because it's cool and because semiconductors are made of metal. No one laughed, no one got it, and I will be filing an official complaint through my lawyer in 3 to 5 business days.
I did get it. Well, I didn't get it.
I actually didn't. I thought you were saying
absorb
it's metal. I didn't. Are semiconductors metal, or are they like?
They're metal.
I thought maybe there was some like plastics going in there.
No.
There's some plastics going into your bloodstream.
Oh yeah, we all have microplastics in our blood.
But
What
anyway,
about the macroplastics though?
the macroplastics.
Macroplastics.
If you have macroplastics in your blood,
Not in my blood.
You have
I am eating macroplastics.
then Barbie has macroplastics in her blood.
Barbie is macroplastics.
I'm just thinking. If somebody said I have macroplastics in my blood, this means they have like a fucking bottle
And
like
you just
shoved
see
in there.
you just
You
see
see it
the
sticking out.
the plastic travel through the. Okay. Anywho, yes, very funny semiconductor joke.
Thank
Love
you.
it. It was great.
It was a fantastic. 10 out of 10.
But about the question, I feel like I'm probably dodging the question here, but I feel like it would just kind of blow up in our own political landscape, and we would just it would have a large impact similar to like the Vietnam War upon people socially, and there would be a lot of protests for people being like, we don't belong there, we shouldn't be, sending our people to die there, and I feel like it could be a really brutal war.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because if we team up with Taiwan, then China's probably going to try to team up with Russia if they aren't toast by the end of the whole Ukraine thing. And if that happens, then we might be fine because we probably get India on our side there, because right now India is booming specifically with tech, and India I think would be an ally with us more than they would be an ally with China.
I forget the name. There's 2 different defense treaties in relation to this specific issue.
Yeah, I feel like that's more important to clarify right now because I don't know enough
There's
about
AUKUS,
this.
which is literally Australia, America, the United Kingdom, and they have all pledged to they're basically working together in defense of the South Pacific against China. And then there's another tract I forget the name of that's with the U.S., India, and Japan, where all 3 of them would work together in defense of Taiwan. So here's the thing. Let me describe a China situation, just because I think it's super interesting to understand where they're coming from.
I didn't absorb your second treaty.
The second treaty is, I believe, between Japan, India, like you said,
US.
and the United States.
Okay.
So China is pretty much encircled by American allies. So we have China's right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is Indonesia, which is Vietnam, Laos, all that, Myanmar, kind of neutral in the conflict. Then there is Singapore, Malaysia, Taiwan, Okinawa, and Japan. What's really fascinating about the situation is that China actually doesn't have any direct access to the open Greater Pacific Ocean. That doesn't go through some naval choke point that is not controlled by U.S. allies.
So they really can't make big plays and go for Taiwan.
Okay.
Very easily.
Yes, but think of this. This is the crazy thing that I learned just recently.
Okay.
So China, and I'm actually gonna send a couple videos you guys this way because I think they're really interesting and important maybe to understand the situation. And I think since that is where World War III would happen, pretty valuable to know about.
Absolutely.
China has a catastrophic energy problem. They don't have enough natural energy, or not natural, but energy like oil, coal, that sort of stuff, to power their country by themselves. They import the large majority of their oil from the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
That oil travels through these straits blocked by American allies. So, in the context of a war, or maybe a conflict in Taiwan, maybe America doesn't go to war, but they blockade China, embargo them, saying you don't get your oil.
Oh, yeah.
What happened to Japan? What did the U.S. do to Japan before Pearl Harbor? Pop quiz.
I don't know.
Murdered them.
Midway.
Japan doesn't have any natural resources
Yeah.
and is very energy dependent on imports.
Yeah.
At that time,
We
America,
embargoed them.
they were very dependent on American oil exports for their
Oh,
energy
wow.
needs.
They
They
were like, no.
were invading China, and we said, no, we're going to embargo you. And they said, okay, we are on a time clock anyway. We need to beat the United States out of the war. And we need to do it quick and fast with a sudden strike that they're not going to expect.
And we held that grudge.
Pearl Harbor, right?
And then they made a 3-hour movie about it.
Tor.
Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer. But
Yeah.
what's really fascinating is the similarities in the situation between what China is right now and what Japan was then,
Yeah.
right? So,
Except we're not going to be developing any new weapons to be like, ooh,
yes.
big muscle play. We
Especially-
have the big weapons
And they
that
have
are
the big
really
weapons, too.
scary
Yes.
and that could end the world.
Honestly, I think with the bomb, I don't think World War III will be fought with nukes or anything like that.
Mhm.
I think anyone who does that is just stupid and it's not going to work.
It'll be an economic and
Well,
it'll be a hugely economic.
I was thinking like biological warfare is what's going to happen, because if you look into the science behind biology right now and like man-made viruses and pathogens and stuff, I'm not going down the whole like trying to create the coronavirus rabbit hole.
Oh.
That's a story for another day. But it is like a thing that's happening. Powers right now are developing their own bioweapons, and I think that's what war's going to be fought with soon. Either that or like drone technology or something like that.
And drones are already being used in war.
Yeah.
Hugely.
I mean, so Ukraine doesn't really have much of a navy to speak of, but they've been sinking the much greater, many ships in the much greater Black Sea fleet of the Russians with drones, kamikaze
Yeah.
drones, right?
Yeah.
They've
They're
been-
just like,
cool.
we die.
And yes, it's
Yeah.
crazy. You can actually go on YouTube, which is wild that they're on YouTube, and watch
Yeah.
videos of drones dropping bombs on Russian trenches.
That's crazy.
Is that
The fact that that's on YouTube
I
and we
know.
can just see that?
Yes, it's crazy. I remember I
The
watched.
world is insane.
There was GoPro footage because I think a lot of soldiers are required to wear GoPros for battle reports because it's all war is information, right? And I was just like, okay, so this is kind of interesting. Ukrainian soldier defends trench. Okay, I wasn't expecting to see anything, because
Yeah.
I was YouTube. A guy got gunned down,
That was a legitimate.
like
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
legitimately, this guy was... You saw him shooting at people. You saw him gun down a guy. It was crazy.
I imagine them getting like a selfie stick and be like, "What's up, YouTube?
And
Today we're
we're-
gonna be gunning
the
down
thing
these scrubs."
The thing is, we're so desensitized to violence like that.
It looked
that,
like a video game.
that we're like, just more people dying. But then it doesn't register with us that is real life.
Mm-hmm.
That is real people's lives being taken and ending. And that is... It's scary that we're just like, the YouTube videos of people dying.
Yeah. It used to be that you had to go to other sites, but now it's just you can see it there.
That's
It's
horrifying.
It's
honestly.
terrifying. It genuinely is. I think we live in this world
That
where
has so many bigger implications about like how we view human lives and how
we view war.
we treat war. Yeah.
Yeah, because war, is being turned, at least in the terms of the West. Like, I know there was a GoFundMe page by a Ukrainian artillery unit. They said, if you give us so much money for the war effort, we'll put whatever you want on artillery shell that we're going to send into Russian trenches. And people were sending in memes, right? They were sending in memes that when somebody put Pepe the Frog on artillery shell, right? Isn't that surreal?
That's the most like Reddit thing or 4chan thing I've
so-
ever heard.
It's just fucking crazy. But the thing is, that's
so sad.
That's not new. Like Americans were drawing like pop figure icons on the sides of their flying fortress bombers in World War II.
Yeah.
It's always been. It's just weird to think of that. Like,
Well, on one hand, it's dehumanizing. On the other, it's humanizing because it goes to show, like, even in these tragic times, like we're grasping for things that make us laugh, or things that help us get through the next day.
Oh my gosh! But I don't think America's really connected to the way it actually is.
That's always been America's problem. America
We're
is
not grounded in the reality of war.
We're safely encased.
Yeah.
In this little bubble of the two oceans. We have the strongest navy in the world by far. So do you know what naval tonnage is? So say in an aircraft carrier, I don't know the actual numbers, it's like 12 tons, right? Like that's the rating of how much ship you have in the sea. America has half of all of the naval tonnage in the world.
Let's go.
Like literally, like we have like freakishly large navy.
No one can touch us because we're isolated.
We're isolated. We have so many resources.
Because nobody's going after Canada.
Well, and that's the thing too. Like on our continent, we don't have any rivals that could ever challenge us. It's like in Europe,
because we're besties with Canada. They kind of hate us, and we kind of hate them.
And
but we're kind of besties.
And despite what we are, the talk of the Republicans make against Mexico, they're a really close economic ally of ours too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We are deeply intertwined, both of our countries, all three of our countries.
Yeah.
And we have no risk of either of those countries ever being.
It's not like the tumultuous relationship that Japan and China have had forever.
Or even Germany and France.
Because
there's so much bad blood in history. There's a little bit of history between us, but not necessarily the same.
And of course, the UK and France. Like, holy cow.
Yes. It's super fascinating.
Europe is all so tumultuous and always has been. and Eurasia in general has always been so, borders have always just changed like crazy.
British.
But here, it's just what it is.
But back to the question from earlier, because I think we have a bit more context, maybe discuss it further.
Absolutely.
Would you support, and I'll give my answer after you guys give yours, would you support American intervention in a Chinese invasion of Taiwan?
I don't think...
I would, simply because that would be showing an ideal that I think our allies share, which is, independent nations, and instead of, trying to own other people's, goods and production pipelines, trying to work with them and integrate with them and interface with them is so much more important. Because like one of the reasons India's economy is booming right now is because a lot of the services that we have here and a lot of the parts that we order for our computers and stuff are coming from India, and we're working with them, and there's like this mutual, not necessarily economic growth going on, but this mutual economic process going on between those two nations. And India, of course, is working with lots of other nations too. And I think that's so much more valuable than the mindset of, oh yes, let's just take each other over. That's better. And so I think I would support the U.S., not even the U.S. specifically, but the U.S. and its allies, stepping in and intervening with the Taiwan thing. Because I think, if India steps in, like first, the U.S. ought to definitely, not only to show that we are allied with India, but also to show that we're fighting for the same sort of ideals of nations remaining independent but still compromising and working with one another. Because there's a lot of talk about globalization these days, and I think there's value in having distinct nations. It makes it easy to govern things. Just like look at even the U.S. Like the reason we have so many states and we have like different state constitutions and stuff is because different states can try out different policies, and if they turn out good, other states can adopt them. If not, other states can avoid them, right? And so there's definitely a very good reason for what's it called federalism and also sovereignty of different states and different nations. So there's definitely benefits there. And so retaining that in a state of compromise is so much more valuable than just trying to dominate and take things over. So yes, I would support the U.S. Trying to step in and intervene if things start going down Taiwan. I would not support the U.S. starting it, though.
Oh, of course not.
Yeah, no.
Okay. My thoughts are, I don't think that the U.S. would make the choices responsibly to not escalate. The U.S. has historically really escalated things and just been like, well, we have bigger guns, so we're going to make things worse, and then they're going to make things worse, and then it just kind of gets bigger and bigger. Whereas I think if the U.S. was able to put their foot down and be like, no, you are not going to do that, I feel like I'm explaining this in such a childish way, but if we were able to put a stop to things and put brakes on the war and the invasion, then yes, I would be supportive. But if we were just simply going in there and being like, we're cooler and bigger and scarier. No.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't know.
Was that kind of like what we did in World War One, where we were kind of there just to stop things and we didn't necessarily escalate them, or were we like very escalating in World War One?
You could argue that we escalated because we put more people there on the front lines, but at the same time, in entering into a world war, there's not much more escalation that could be done.
Honestly.
You're already supplying weapons and ammunition and supplies to the Allied forces or the Entente. So, you know,
I don't think that the U.S. could go into Taiwan as a defense responsibly. So, I don't think I could support a physical... I don't think I could support U.S. being physically there.
Well, and something that's interesting about Taiwan is the geography, right? Because, like, if, say, India's involved in this conflict already, and of course China, like, there are going to be a lot of people on the ground in Taiwan right there already. So the U.S. won't have much room. So I would imagine U.S. having a very strong naval presence kind of around Taiwan.
We already do.
Yeah.
So this is a little bit of history. A little bit of history I think is really fascinating. So where did Taiwan come from? Really lightning quick. World War II was fought by the nationalist Chinese government, and they won, and then they maintained control. Then the civil war that was happening beforehand between them and the communists reignited. Communists win, push them to Taiwan, and then they're about to go try and capture Taiwan, but then the U.S. is like, we're just gonna put our navy here. And Mao Zedong was like, hey, move your navy. I want to go over there. We're like, lol, no.
What are you gonna do about it?
Because they didn't really have a navy at that point, so they're like, rats.
Oh, snap.
So that's pretty much the policy
Gene
that we've done for a
Willikers.
long time. We've had a naval group there in the area that does
I got
patrols
scratches on my arm.
for a super long time.
No scratches?
Yeah.
I got this one yesterday.
I got these cuts on my arm that I don't know where they came from.
The T is fighting back.
I definitely, so I think that, in a theoretical war scenario, I think it's super fascinating because I don't think America would necessarily nationalize, it's not nationalize, but mobilize the army and then move all of their armed forces to actually defend mainland Taiwan.
I just think that we could dangerously slip into a Vietnam War situation where we have so much sacrifice and very little
I definitely
global
agree.
gain.
It definitely could turn into that. I definitely think it's one of those really interesting situations because it's fundamentally the same, but also fundamentally different.
Yes,
it's fundamentally the same,
obviously.
whereas it would be us intervening in a foreign conflict for the sake of our geopolitical interests rather than our domestic interests.
But we would share the homeland advantage in that situation.
But Taiwan is, compared to South Vietnam, like a functional,
Obviously.
vibrant democracy.
Yes.
That it wants to be a democracy.
Yes.
Right. It's not like the poorly veiled dictatorship that South Vietnam was.
Yeah.
So it's like I think we have more justification for being there. People there actually want to fight.
Yeah.
Like the Taiwanese people don't want to be Chinese.
Yeah, obviously. Who does?
Certainly not Hong Kong.
Ask Hong Kong. Yeah.
Yeah, ask Hong Kong. But
Oof.
yeah, it's fucked up. But I think that the war is so fascinating because I'm sure you've heard in the news recently that China recently got surpassed to the greatest population.
By India.
Oh, I was about to bring that up. Yeah, India's finally surpassed them.
Mm-hmm. And that's because China is truly facing the ramifications of its one-child policy, and it's having a vastly, quickly shrinking population.
Yeah.
And something I've learned recently in geography and in college was population dynamics are everything in terms of who wins a war. And suddenly China is facing a situation. So
they can't go to war at this point because they don't have the population.
They still have a window. Their window is between now and 2037, I believe, was it? 10 years.
14, yeah.
So if they're going to invade Taiwan, that's their window, right?
Interesting.
Which means that if we see a Taiwan war, it's going to happen soon.
In our soon
to be lifetimes. In our draftable lifetimes.
I was about to say, we're draftable.
In our draftable.
Good luck with that, y'all.
So we need to get our careers rolling really fast.
Yeah, we do.
Start becoming important, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, what do you think this is?
How is us sitting on a couch talking about this important?
That's what the president does. Every day, he just sits on the couch and talks about stuff.
Yeah, pretty much, actually.
Yeah.
Well,
We're
Joe
not
Biden doesn't talk
contributing
about
to the
anything.
economy.
Joe Biden just trips and stuff.
Okay, I don't want to talk about the president.
Fair enough, but
Man.
regardless, it's a really interesting circumstance where China is basically like a tiger that's being pushed into a corner. It doesn't have the time it wants to accomplish what its ultimate objective.
Yeah.
And even though it would be stupid for them to do it, because
they might just
because they feel like because here that's what happened to Russia. Putin wanted to accomplish these geopolitical objectives. He's been doing it for the past couple decades, and suddenly, maybe not the past couple, you know what I mean.
Yeah. And
suddenly, his population is starting to decline. People are leaving en masse and that sort of stuff. Now or never, he does it. It fails, right? That didn't mean because dictators and empire builders don't often work on the same framework as us.
Yeah.
The status quo favors America. China knows that. They might be willing to change the status quo even if it means destruction. Because interestingly enough, I know I talked about blockading the straits. China would have enough gas and the situation of a blockade, enough natural energy to last for 90 days under normal functioning. After that, their economy would basically collapse entirely because they'd have to push everything into the war effort.
Wow.
So,
but they are doing a lot. Maybe that's why they're doing so much research on fusion energy right now.
It is totally why. Because
I don't think that the Chinese government is afraid of destroying the lives of their citizens in order to get their own political gains.
And what's really interesting about China,
look at what they did to their citizens in COVID, the major COVID lockdowns. That was so incredibly brutal. I don't know if you've seen much about it, but like, it was also so quiet. They were so quiet about it, but like, you could be horribly punished for like looking outside or something crazy. Like that's probably an exaggeration, but like,
yeah, it's
still
hard.
It was hardcore. They had constant government surveillance, and it's just
that has been a characteristic of Chinese, not just the communist Chinese government, but Chinese government period for a long time.
Yeah.
I watched a video that was really fascinating. It's like, what if the nationalists won the Civil War? Do you know that episode of Avatar, After the Last Airbender, where the rebels want to blow up a dam to kill a bunch of Fire Nation soldiers,
yes.
but everyone's like
the first jet episode.
The nationalist Chinese government literally did that during World War II, and
Yeah.
it resulted in the deaths of estimated hundreds of thousands of Chinese people.
And it was citizens as a whole.
Yes.
That's what kills me is like a lot of these war efforts are always like attacks on citizens. That's why
Total war, right? It's the
Yeah.
idea. It's
so horribly inhumane, and war is just so I
I don't think there's many people who like war.
I know,
You know,
but
it's
like
like-
it's just I wish there was a way that we could just not have war.
and the U.S. It's interesting because whenever you think about U.S. foreign policy and you think about what they've been doing overseas, the U.S. looks like, oh, we're just a bunch of assholes who intervene everywhere, and there's always been dumb politicians who don't know what they're talking about. But the truth is, there is this core class of people, like dedicated policymakers and foreign policy advocates and planners that have been working beneath the scenes and going to college, doing that sort of stuff, like the degree I'm going in for, international relations, who've been doing this stuff for a long time, who understand these things, who don't want war, who've been working at it for a very long time. And right now, the status quo, the reason it's so stacked against China is not by accident,
Oh yeah.
right? Like, I remember I saw a speech a long time ago, and I didn't know why he was there, but President Obama went on a tour of East Asia, and he went to, he went to Malaysia, he went to Singapore, he went to all these nations, because they're not necessarily, they're our allies, not necessarily because of fundamentally, but they're our allies because we all have one common enemy, right? And we have set up this place where, sure, China can go to war, but they know that they are going to be on a
completely screwed.
Exactly.
It's like that one video of some
If they
kid
don't
sitting in
get
the
stuff
classroom.
done immediately and so powerfully, then they are screwed.
I'm reminded of that video of that one kid sitting in the classroom, he raised his hand to say something, and then everyone just starts throwing stuff at him, like desks and stuff. I love that video. That will be China.
Pretty much,
Yeah.
essentially. I mean,
Unless they jump out of their seat and dive.
Or they open their minds and we find out that they've been building superhumans and they release 2 billion of them.
it's really crazy that China is it's a lot like Russia, right? It's like we look at China and we're like, this is super intimidating. They're a superpower.
Yeah.
They're so powerful.
Okay. I want to ask, how does Russia figure into the Taiwan situation?
Russia figures into the Taiwan situation because Russia and China. So for the longest time, Russia was a global superpower.
Yeah.
It was. In the Soviet Union, at the time of the Russian Empire, they dictated policy all over the world.
Yeah.
And that mentality, they have to play second fiddle to the Chinese now. So for a long time, Russia developed its sphere of influence and did that sort of thing, and it controlled people's markets, and they were the people that took resources that they needed to develop their economy. Russia, you may have heard bits and pieces about this, is one of the greatest, the second largest producer of oil in the world, and the largest producer of natural gas.
I'm the largest producer of natural gas.
Just individually. It's like if you get abducted by the U.S. government, you get thrown in. But there's actually been I've learned a lot of this fantastic channel on YouTube, Real Life Lore.
Mm-hmm.
He's been just covering. He has a modern conflict series he's been covering.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned a lot about Saudi Arabia, Iran, Russia.
Okay,
I've been listening to it while I drive.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
Mm-hmm.
I lost my train of thought. I took a Modern Western Civ class in this last semester, and it was such a good class. It taught me so much about the modern political scene in Europe, and I just wish that it had gone further because it was one semester, it couldn't really cover it had to cover things more. It was able to cover things more in depth because it was such a focused modern, since the I think 1400s, only Europe, and it was able to cover so much of the political scene and just what exists there, why things happened that in the way that they did, and it was stuff that we've talked about in schools before. It was a lot of repeat stuff that I'd already learned, but I learned about the whys a lot more. And I love college classes, and I love college history classes a lot more than I ever loved any other history class that I've ever taken.
Because they could talk about the controversy.
They talk about so much more. They talk about the whys. They talk about the real human experience of being there, and they talk about the overarching ideas and they talk about the stories, the real human stories that I love learning about. And I want to take an Asian history class so bad.
Hey, dude, Asian
because
history.
My Asian history is so under talked about
and so deeply important.
It's so deeply important, and the U.S. has no idea what's happening there ever.
So we the people that I talk about, there are people that do, but the populace doesn't.
Sure, yeah.
It's think of human history through this lens. Throughout literally 90% of human history, China was the center of the human world.
Yeah.
China was the most powerful, the most wealthy, the most economically influential state, period, ever, anywhere.
Yeah.
The past 100 years, well, I guess you could say past 200 years.
Yeah.
There was something after the fall of the Qing dynasty during the fall and after the fall of the Qing dynasty known as the year of embarrassment. Because it's a century of embarrassment, rather. Because China, think of it from a Chinese citizen's perspective, you lived in what was fundamentally the superpower of all history.
Yeah.
And then you drop the bag, and these young upstart nations in Europe suddenly are just taking your land and dictating your foreign policy and selling you opium.
Yeah, oh my god, the Opium Wars. We barely talked about that because it was more of a Chinese focus.
Mm-hmm.
But the Opium Wars were so insane to learn about.
Yes, it's crazy. The Opium War.
Oh my gosh.
It's literally countries were drug dealers to buy tea. Whole other thing. Whole other conversation.
And it's oh my gosh, the tea and spice trade is just such an interesting thing to learn about, and I want to learn a lot more about the East India Trading Company. In that entire situation. My uncle was actually saying at one point they should make a show, an HBO show about the East India Company, because just kind of all the influence and the political drama that happened there, and it would be such a good show.
It'd be called HBOpium.
HBOpium. It's pretty good.
I hate it.
But I do want to circle back and answer your question about where Russia and China play together, because Russia has been revealed to be a paper tiger, because they postured themselves to be this all-powerful military supergiant, but they never really had engaged with Western military hardware or doctrine. Yeah. And then whenever they have, they collapse. But we didn't know, because the only way we can interact with with any information we get from their state is fabricated and manufactured by the state.
Oh yeah.
It's the same with China. Right? We don't really know how effective China is as a fighting force. We don't know. We know on paper how many ships they have sometimes, and how many troops they have.
We've never seen it. We've never seen their strength like we've seen our strength.
Yes.
Because we like to posture our strength. We like to actually physically show results. They're like, yeah, Japan, you're screwed.
You know, in a weird way, so, you know, the invasion of Iraq and the
Yes.
occupation of the Middle East is such, I think, overall a negative thing. But, you know, for the military and for the foreign policy planners at the time, you could see where they're coming from. I think they're wrong, especially in retrospect.
Agree.
But it's like, for example, in Iraq, so it's a whole other tangent. So, oil, like, you know, there's this big meme, America and oil, right? The world and oil. Why are we so fascinated by oil? And it's because of electricity. It's because modern civilization needs power, right? We transport our power around using gasoline. You need oil to make gasoline, right? Literally, modern civilization could not function without oil. It's just one of those fundamental truths that we kind of accept but we don't really analyze. During that time period, around the early 2000s, the late 1990s, there's this organization known as OPEC. The OPEC is the Organization of Petroleum something countries, exporting countries. So basically, all of the top petroleum exporting countries in the world united together because the United States recognized Israel as a country and said, fuck you, U.S., Israel's not a country, you better take it back or we're going to embargo you. And they embargoed us. And then we suffered a massive economic recession, gas prices, because if gas price goes up, everything goes up.
Are gas prices going up again?
Yes.
Well, so the reason they were stabilized and going down a little bit is because we had a strategic reserve of petroleum that we've been tapping into for a while now to keep prices steady. Because, oh my god, it's all ties together. OPEC, Saudi Arabia, the number one oil producing country in the world, has something called, I forget what it's called, turned off capacity.
Just got a car and they're like, oil prices going up again.
So they literally control, they have the largest oil field in the world, they export oil, right? And they have this thing called turned off capacity. I'm not sure if that's the right term, but essentially they have oil foundries and manufactories that they have produced, they maintain, they're ready to turn on, but they keep them off because they artificially inflate and deflate the price of oil to their geopolitical ambitions.
Yeah.
Right now, they're wanting the United States to enter into a formal defense treaty between us and them. In order to influence us into doing that, they've kept the oil prices low to keep inflation going up in the U.S. to pressure us to do it. I'm going to recommend another video to you guys. Real life lore has educated me so thoroughly.
You should send us videos after this.
Because it is so
in the group chat.
like there's just so much there.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating. It's like because you're like as just a citizen, you know what the United States does. Like, why the fuck are we doing these things?
Yeah.
Right, but there is reason that it does make sense.
It's crazy.
You know,
I think an easy way to
So
fight
much
back
of this.
though is to kind of show off electric vehicles and be like, hey, look, these are getting really good, so your oil's not going to be relevant for too much longer.
That's exactly why they're doing it. There's a saying in Saudi Arabia. My great grandfather rode a camel. No, my grandfather rode a camel. My father drove a Porsche. I drove a Ferrari. My son will ride a camel. Because the world is moving away from petroleum. It's trying to go to atomic energy, to natural renewable sources of energy, solar and such, and oil eventually, hopefully, won't be relevant, or at least at any major capacity that it is today, because we won't need to run it. We won't need modern society to run it. For a country like Saudi Arabia, and I will send you this video,
bad for them.
because they are an autocratic, dictatorial state that abuses its people, but they bribe their people into being okay with it because they offer them free healthcare, zero taxes, free education, and all the sort of this other shit because they're able to pay for it with oil money, right?
Yeah.
So if they don't have oil money anymore, what the fuck do they do?
Isn't that what basically happened with Venezuela? Like they base most of their economy on oil.
I wish I
and
knew
then
more
when that
about
kinda-
Venezuela because that's some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Venezuela that's essentially the situation, but it's just a bit more. There's a bit. I don't know a lot of Venezuela, to be honest, but there's a bit more to it than that.
Also, there's a lot of leadership problems in general.
Do you know how the United States under Trump was like, oh, we are now exporting oil again. We're now energy independent. It was like a big thing that we said. That's because of fracking. Fracking has been foundational in changing U.S. geopolitics. The U.S. is now once again the number one producer of oil. And that's not the number one producer of oil, but it's the
No, surely not.
Number 4.
But they're up there again.
Yeah.
Like during World War II, we were the number one producer of oil, the number one exporter, and now we're up there again, like number 3 or something. I used to not like modern history, but now I understand that modern history and modern geopolitics is just this like rich tapestry of all of human history leading up to it.
Yeah.
Because you need so much context to understand things.
Yes, you need to go back so far to understand why the world is what it is today.
There's one guy eating some
that's
sushi,
why
and he was
kids
like,
aren't. That's why people aren't properly taught this stuff because it's so complicated.
Yes.
And humanity is so complicated, and yet we have like a couple years focused just on U.S. history, and it's just like we don't understand what's happening in the world.
What's really fascinating too, there's this old George Carlin bit where it's like, and it really wasn't a comic bit. It was pretty old. It wasn't really a comedy routine. He was just like, kind of talking.
Yeah.
It was
like us.
And he was like,
oh my gosh.
He was like, the ruling wealthy and rich class wants to keep you stupid. And there is an element of truth to that.
Yeah.
Like we were talking earlier before you got here about the Catholic Church, and about how like, I can kind of somewhat understand the initial reasoning behind saying that only scholars can read the Bible because it's so complicated. But whenever you don't trust people to do it, and you don't let them make their own decisions, that is wrong.
Okay.
People have said that an educated population would be a democratic, a blue population of the U.S. So, like, the more educated you are, the more left-leaning you get.
That's a whole other conversation.
That is a whole other conversation. I
right
don't want to start any fights or wars
and then
here.
the right has made it out to be that if you become blue because of your education, it's not
because you're being brainwashed.
It's just brainwashed.
And it's just like, well, no, it's just we've been given more. And I'm not saying we have to go full, like, so hard left. Obviously, there is a lot of extremists in that region.
Yeah, it's not like you become a communist.
Yeah, no, obviously. No. If you get educated, you will become a communist.
It's more like,
and you will destroy the world.
As a general rule of thumb.
No. But a more educated population is a bluer population, a lefter population.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because the rate of education is kind of turning a little more, and men aren't going to college as much, and it's interesting because
the
U.S. is changing.
Like you look at a lot of people who like don't go to college. They talk a lot about trade schools and stuff. They make bank.
Sure.
I have a cousin doesn't go to college, got an apprenticeship as a plumber, and he's making more than like my parents.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's because the trades are completely undersaturated.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
horribly
societally it's like go to college.
Well, and I do like this one song that has a line. It's called "What You Gonna Do When Your Number's Up." It's just about this dude just ranting about how complex society's getting. And he's like, okay, what are you going to do when you get out of college? You did all those studies and stuff, and then your car breaks down. What are you going to do? Or like one big thing he was critiquing is like there are a lot of classes that teach you about being like open-minded, but like don't teach like good morals. And so like you'll have all these perspectives, but no directive, which is a big problem with some college classes.
I was talking about. If you guys have watched Haunting of Hill House, something that came up was the parents of like one of the main there's 5 kids in that show, and so like the oldest kid, Steven, he was talking. This lady was like, "Do you know Jesus? Do you have Jesus in your life and in your heart?" And he's like, "I've read the Bible, yes." And his mom comes up and she's like, "Yeah, he's read the Bible. He's read all of these faiths, these books of faith, and all of these beliefs." And then my mom was talking about how they gave him all of these things, but they didn't teach him how to believe any of it. They didn't teach him how to have any faith and have any guidance in life and how to, like, sure, understand other people's beliefs and be to be accepting and tolerant of people, obviously, but learn how to believe something of your own. And that created him into a character who is the biggest cynic, and he was the greatest cynic of the show, and it was really interesting.
Well, see, that's why I think a lot of higher education institutions fail, is because they do a great job of offering these diverse perspectives.
Yeah.
But especially when we're young, impressionable adults, like finding a way to ground ourselves in that sea of perspective is really hard sometimes.
Yeah.
So I think that it is true that the more educated you are, the more you come to understand that there aren't definitive answers to things.
Yeah.
And I think that is not a wrong perspective. And the truth is, I think that, because something I fear less about myself is that my personality's always been, I'm very, personable. I try to make everyone get along whenever I know them. I try and
Somewhat of a people pleaser.
a people pleaser, a diplomat. I also like to say because
Yeah.
I'm very capable. It's not because I'm not like a people pleaser because I just need to be liked.
Yeah.
Because I genuinely empathize and see everyone's
Absolutely.
perspective.
No, I'm very similar.
Like I sit in your shoes. I'm like, I get you, and I don't want to. I get you enough that I don't want to say you're wrong. But there gets to be a point where, even though everyone might not
Some
be
people
wrong,
are wrong.
No, even it's not, there are some people who are
No,
wrong.
yeah.
But like, even though there's somebody, everyone has an empathetic point of view, and even though every single faith, every single maybe scientific interpretation of a theory might have merit, there gets to be a point where action cannot be taken unless you take a side.
Yes.
It's like in geopolitics. It's
Absolutely.
like you're like, okay, well, you got there's this and then this and then this and then that and then that. It's like whenever you talk about, very simply, like Truman's like nuclear bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It's like he could have deliberated for days and weeks and hours, probably and for months, whether or not to do it. And he could have said, you know what, we shouldn't do it. We should not do that. We should do this. We could do that. There's probably 1,000 different options arrayed before him. But oddly enough, you find this a lot in soldiers throughout history. He was a soldier. He served in World War I. And he realized at some point, you know what, maybe this isn't right, but I need to make a decision.
Yeah.
I have to make a judgment call. I have to do it. You can only deliberate, you can only hypothesize and theorize and pontificate about what is right for so long before doing nothing is worse than having done the wrong thing.
As Oppenheimer said, theory can only take you so far.
Theory can only take you so far.
Yeah.
Because it's really fascinating and you're right, because the colleges don't teach you what is right, but I think that's because there is an implicit assignment to decide what you think is right.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think that there is any direct way to teach somebody how to decide for themselves.
Yeah.
Because then you make the decision for them.
I think my English class did a really good job of that, actually. He would give us readings and opinion pieces of different sides, all sorts of different opinion pieces, and be like, okay, now discuss. What are your thoughts? Do you think that these people are right? Do you think these people are wrong? And argue amongst yourselves. And so we would have these discussion posts, and we would have to do those. And I feel like while those were kind of boring at times, I think that they were a valuable lesson in deciding for yourself.
We did that in my philosophy of mind class a lot, and I enjoyed it. And I'm assuming we'll do that a lot in my ethics class, which I'm so excited
absolutely.
for.
I'm going to have to take an engineering ethics class, I think.
You can't build Statue of Liberty naked. No.
I love
And I'm going to have to take a psych class. And I'm actually excited about the psych class.
I love arguing with people who disagree with me vehemently.
Vehemently?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Venomously.
Venomously.
But it's just I love it whenever
tiring.
like I get heated, I get frustrated, but I know too that like I feel like whenever I argue with somebody, my mind opens up in a way that it doesn't normally.
Yeah.
Right?
My phone
And like
is
maybe it isn't in the moment, but I am whenever somebody presents a point to me with enough passion and enough eloquence, whenever I'm sat down after the fact and I'm able to think about it, I'm able to think, do I agree with this? I don't always say yes. Oftentimes I don't, but I do grapple with it.
Yeah.
And I love these interactions that I don't get to have them often. I wish I had them more often, where people just disagree with me. They're like, no, John, you're wrong. And I want to be like, no, I'm right, and here's why. And I don't want that person to shut down. Right? I want you to go back and forth.
If it devolves into a just, no, you're wrong and you're stupid for thinking that, then it's so unproductive and nobody can grapple with each other's opinions and be able to discuss it or think about it properly and grow from it. Because I think you're right. A healthy intellectual discussion about an opinion is extremely valuable, and
it could get impassioned. It could be heated.
Yeah.
You just have to be able to handle the heat. And you could be like, I can't handle this right now. Let's do it another time or something like that.
You could be like, hey, I'm getting too mad at you. I need to step away from this.
And that's fine. I get that.
That is completely valid.
But like, I don't. there is something that frustrates me whenever somebody drops an opinion, and I'm like, well, actually, and they're like, nope, I don't want to talk about it. And I'm like,
Hot take, but don't talk to me about it.
Exactly. I'm like,
But like,
I'm like, what's the point of it? What's the point? Like they're like, I don't want to debate people to like assert my mental dominance.
Yeah, you're not trying to debate people for the purpose of telling them how wrong they are or making them feel shame.
Yeah.
Or any of that. You're trying to discuss it because it's interesting.
And I think it's because whenever you present somebody a disagreement and they say something they believe, and you're like, no, I disagree with this, and here's why. It forces them to interact with the idea in a way they maybe never have before.
Yeah.
Right? It's like our conversations about evolution. maybe I didn't present them like I wasn't like, "Oh, you're wrong, and here's why," but I did present my disagreements.
Yeah.
Right, in a way that allowed you to grapple with them on your own time. Right.
And then I looked it up and I was like, wait, most Christians actually affirm evolution because there's no reason not to. I want to do that too.
A lot of things in this area. I grew up I grew up in a very Christian society, I guess, or a very Christian environment because I was homeschooled. So a lot of the homeschoolers in the area are young Earth creationists, and that is so insane to me because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense the way that Christianity tries to deny science.
Yeah.
And turn away from science. I hate the fact that there is so much Christian versus science when.
Well, it's not even
back in the
Christianity.
day, faith versus science.
It really
No. Well, I was talking about this earlier. It's really the evangelical denominations that are so against it.
Yeah.
It's really them because you look throughout history.
Yeah,
Catholics
I was just about to say
and
throughout the
Presbyterians
history.
and yeah.
The church was funding science.
Yes.
Yeah.
The church was the reason that science happened.
Yes.
And that these understandings of our world happened because the church was like, we want to understand God's beautiful earth better. Please investigate. Please do science. And it's just like, why can't we get back to that?
Yeah.
Why can't we just...
Well, it was really crazy, and this is kind of a whole different topic, but I think it is interesting in the context of the situation, is that science right now in our society is steadily being divorced from the humanities. It's like Oppenheimer, fantastic physicist, pursued his entire life into the sciences, quoted the Bhagavad Gita whenever he, not whenever he witnessed the explosion, but whenever he gave an interview about it after.
Yeah.
You don't quote Hindu scripture if you're not well read into the humanities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? But right now, a lot of colleges,
so you can either go the STEM way or the boring way.
Pretty much, or no, the STEM way or the poor way.
Yes,
is what it is.
Yes.
And
it's like, my school is extremely STEM focused. It's an engineering school, it's a technology school, it's a science school. And then our humanities classes are weak. Mm. Or they are so STEM focused, but they are not STEM focused in the right way. Mm. They're not... they try to be support for your STEM pursuits, but you also need those more humanities, true humanities classes.
It's it's in the name. Humanity. You don't want to divorce humanity from science.
Yeah. That's how you...
Well, that's why I love Dre, though, because they're really good at blending what they call...
Yeah, because you're going to a humanities school for a STEM degree.
Yeah. Because at Dre, they call it life versus professions. STEM is good for profession stuff because we're moving in that direction as a society. But that means nothing if you don't have a life to support it.
I like that a lot. Yeah.
And I'm going to cultivate peace in our time so you guys can do your science stuff.
You better. If you don't succeed, you're out of the...
You're just out.
Gone.
I'm
you're
out of the shot.
Yeah.
The void. And so how long have we been going for? Hour and a half, dang. Last time I looked at that, it was 40 minutes, yeah. We're just so good at talking to each other. It's amazing.
I just gab in high school.
The gob gab.
That's crazy.
Oh, I do have I remember, I have a social experiment I want to run. So I want us all to say in turn that we support Taiwan as an independent country, and I want to see if Chinese bots will fucking comment on the video. I don't think they will. I don't think so. But
I don't think we're important enough.
I'm fairly certain there are bots that scan through videos because I was watching these videos by real life lore and stuff, and there were people who were like, "Nuh-uh, Taiwan is a part of China." It's like Taiwan is a part of China, and anyone with a brain would think that, literally like that.
That's and they'll be the exact same comment copy pasted.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So Taiwan's an independent country.
I support Taiwan as an independent nation.
Taiwan is definitely independent from China.
Dude, I just want to see it because I don't think it's gonna happen, but if it does. It'd be like whenever our our D&D session got put on the real life interacting with you. You're like, whoa.
Yeah, big internet being like, "Hello, small human."
Yes. Yeah, that was our 15 seconds of fame.
Yeah.
Right there.
That was so cool when I heard about that though. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, Elijah wrote from a biased perspective, I will say, but it was still really cool.
Absolutely, it was
still
very
really
biased.
Cool that it got on there.
I feel like if I had written it, it would have been written so differently.
I mean,
Since I'm the main character. No.
Man,
That campaign had issues, but like it was
It did.
so
It was
good.
still really good.
It was so good.
You know, it just drama, and then COVID happened.
You know, speaking
Yeah.
of comments, we do need to look into getting a podcasting license.
Yes,
Oh, you're right.
obviously.
So
When
thank
did you
you.
apply for that?
Thank you. There's a viewer on a previous video who commented saying that we should
I
look
think you
into
have to do that in China.
a podcasting
You go to the
license.
CCP and be
I mean
like,
that,
hey.
yeah, because they're so controlling about
Yeah.
information.
We'll make sure to
Information is
apply.
under wraps over there.
So-
Next video, we're like, Taiwan is not an independent country.
we're
Taiwan
we're
is
tied
China.
to chairs in like a brick building.
No,
Bags over heads. Taiwan is
even
not.
worse for even worse for like, go play Genshin Impact. Taiwan is not an independent country.
Oh dear,
Go
no.
play your gacha games. Hong Kong people
that's
are
good.
happy right
I'm
now.
out of coffee. This is tragic.
Man, there's going to be one more thing I was going to bring up about like college and stuff. I don't know. I am excited for college to start back up though.
I am
Me too. I'm leaving in 3 days.
I'm going to MSU.
yes,
I know
you
it's not
are.
far,
I
right?
know.
But it's cool for me.
No, it's
but-
big. It's
yeah.
bigger. It's crazy.
MSU is so huge. I had no idea how big their student body was like a week
Yeah, it's
ago,
huge.
and I was
The
like,
population of Springfield goes up like 10K whenever they're in session.
Mhm.
It's ridiculous.
yeah. Springfield is very much a college town.
It is. It is more than us townies think.
Yeah. I mean, it's just weird because it definitely is more than a college town, but like it also
It's a lot more than a college town.
But it also just
But it has like the people that are in the college town side of things see it as such a college town.
Mhm.
And it's kind of like there are two lenses for Springfield. There is the Springfield residents, and then there's the college town.
And I will say it is like it fits the definitions of a city because
Yes.
a city is a metropolitan area that has services that service the surrounding rural region. Usually, it maintains a hospital,
Mhm.
government services, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
The hospital's a big one, and an airport.
Yes.
We have an airport.
We do
right?
have an airport.
So like we're a city. It's just like we're also like in this weird.
We're a weird city.
We're a very
Yeah,
weird city.
Very weird city.
Because you drive around, you're like, whoa, this is like not a city. This is like
We're flat. We're flat.
Mhm.
We're so short.
We are the same.
Flattered.
We are the same area, like the square kilometers of Boston.
Really?
Isn't that weird?
But we're so short.
Yeah, we're so short. Isn't that
We're
wild?
so short.
Isn't that weird?
The Plaza Towers being like, we're so tall. And we're like, no.
Plaza Towers.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can see it from so
It's like
far
five-
away.
Brad
Five
Bradshaw's
stories.
looking out over his empire.
Okay, wait. Pladshaw, I think you.
Plaid.
He reposted a post on his Facebook page of somebody who edited him into a plaid suit and changed him to Pladshaw, and he reposted that, and that is the best thing I've ever seen.
Just don't
and
make him
I
angry.
Love it.
Don't make
so
him-
he posted it.
Yeah,
it was so funny.
He must have thought it was funny. He's
No,
thought it
no,
was
I'm
funny.
just like, you gotta be careful though, because if you make him angry, he's gonna be mad Shaw.
Oh my gosh.
Or if you hurt his feelings, he'll be sad Shaw.
Dude, Brad Bradshaw, like I feel like every area has its local lawyer that you know.
Oh,
that
they do, and they all have like the series of one number phone numbers.
So they
You'll
steal
see
their
those
area
in
code.
other. Yeah.
Man, I might get into law before I get into the state. We'll see how it works out.
You thinking of doing law?
Whatever, I have different pipelines to get me to
Yeah.
the State Department, so it just kind of depends on what I want to do.
John Louderback.
Dude, Louderback is such a mouthful. Like, it doesn't roll off the tongue. I like my name. I love my name. It's very
Really?
unique.
You don't like you?
No,
we-
I love
no,
my
I know.
name.
I,
just
I
don't
know you
think-
just said that, but I was
But
like,
I just don't think it rolls off the tongue.
it does.
You think it does?
Jonathan Louderback,
Jonathan Louderback kind of does, but like if you were to say, like,
Mr. Louderback.
it's like, whenever it rolls off the tongue, it's not correctly pronounced. Like people
Dr.
pronounce it
Louderback.
as because I pronounce it as Dr. Louderback. It's like ladder. It sounds like la.
Louderback.
It's like
It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
lauder.
it does. It sounds like it rolls off the tongue in the normal German.
It's interesting,
You know,
even though it's Louderback.
It's louder back is such like a mouthful.
It's so like American.
Yeah,
It's so front of the mouth.
Yes, it's so like
Louderback.
louder back. You know what I mean? You know what?
Louderback.
We're going insane, guys.
No, I know we're saying your name so much, but also it's interesting because I saw somebody talking about accents, and they were talking about how, U.S. like American accents are like front of the mouth, British are kind of like mid mouth, and then the Australians like throat,
That's very true.
and it's interesting.
Bobby.
And no, but it very like because like Americans
You
don't
won't
like
see
we don't
Bobby
pronounce things all the time, but like we definitely like enunciate.
Yeah,
You know,
we
It's-
enunciate in a
yeah.
very different like front of mouth way.
especially in
than
the Midwest.
English accents, they enunciate pretty well, but like it's all like middle mouth.
And that's why their teeth are bad.
Huh?
Could you imagine if there's some sort of science behind your language and the way that affects your teeth? That'd be crazy.
Just
That'd
the way
be insane.
the sound waves travel through your mouth like tooth tunes. Remember that?
What?
The sound wave travels through your teeth into your brain.
You know, I kind of want to. Is that the
God.
toothbrush?
The
Yeah.
toothbrush that played music.
That's
Yeah.
funny. I kind of want to like. I've been thinking about getting my teeth white just a little bit.
Yeah.
But like, I'm very nervous that like if I got white, it'd be like too white.
I can't whiten my teeth because I have so many fillings, and the fillings don't whiten.
Joan, as your fellow American
Joan?
conservative, I can assure you there ain't no such thing as too white.
No.
All right, man.
Look, I'm trying to give us as many reasons as possible to get canceled. We have the Taiwan thing. We have the whole white thing.
What did
we have
I
the
say?
whole women thing.
Oh
Women
yeah,
with positions
women
of power.
positions of power. Yeah, no, I love women, and obviously women should rule the world. There, I'll give my 2 opinions on there.
I have a relative who is also a teacher, and I was sitting in a classroom one time, and she started talking to one of her other teacher friends, and she was like, if we didn't have periods, we'd rule the world. Periods were God's way of preventing us from ruling the world.
So true. It's so true.
It was so funny.
Yeah.
I was 9th grade, and she was right in front of me just talking about that.
Hey, man. I don't know. There
There's
should
nothing
be.
shameful about periods.
I just thought it was so
Women
funny because
bleed.
There's
Women
like
are in pain for a week of the month.
there's a kids show called
fair.
like, The Ghost of Molly McGee. Like they literally had an episode called like a period story or something like that, or period comedy or something like that. And it was just an episode about them having a sleepover. One of the girls has a period for the first time, and they all talk about periods. And I'm like, in a Disney show? Okay.
It was probably a play on words, period piece, like a.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, period piece. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
Interesting. I think it's. I kind of get where you're coming from. It's like whenever you're a
Is
young
your battery dying?
Oh yeah, it is. That's fine.
Oh, is it dying?
It's at like 15%. We're fine.
The recording will just stop
Okay,
and
we'll
we'll
lose
lose
it then.
it.
But it's like whenever you're a young guy, it's like you just don't know what a period is.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Right,
because
it's
you
like-
need to learn
Because-
grammar.
I love how it's either period education or grammar.
Yeah, why are you comparing me to Elijah Woodman like that? Just a name drop him. Worst grammar. Period. All time.
Worst grammar, period.
And then Elijah will respond via text, I know how to use a comma.
Yeah, it's really not his grammar, it's the spelling.
Well, it's his spelling. His grammar isn't atrocious, but like, it's like,
His punctuation could use some work.
he gets his message across.
He does.
He do.
He do.
He do.
He do.
That's such a funny little saying. But back up, because like it's like whenever you're a young guy, I didn't look. My mom like, I like to say I was raised by like a classical feminist in a way. It's like she always told me what a period was. I knew what it was. But then like whenever you like,
You also had an older sister.
and I had an older sister, I had a younger sister, so like, you'd walk, but it's still kind of like a culture shock in a way,
Yeah.
It's also not something you could ever really know.
Understand.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't mind it in media at all. I think it should totally be out there because it's literally just a part of life that you can't control.
Yeah.
It just, I remember I'm pretty, like, obviously I was
It's
young.
not like it's explicit or anything. It's not like we're talking about people having sex on screen. It's a period.
Mhm.
It's a normal health thing.
Well, see, because like even as a kid, like I'd walk through the grocery store and see like pads and stuff like that, and be like, "What's that?" Mom was just like, "It's just something I need." And I was like, "But why?" She'd be like, "Don't worry about it."
It's just the culture. I think that it just depends a lot on how comfortable your parents are with it.
And it's also like a thing where culturally and societally we've been told to be ashamed of our periods and hide them. And so like a lot of women aren't comfortable talking about it, especially with their kids, because they're like, there's still a lot of shame around it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like something you have to hide. And it's just like, well, no.
It's just
It's
like,
just a thing.
it's literally just like your hormone cycle.
I'll
Yeah.
say,
It's like eggs. Chickens lay eggs. Women have periods.
I'll say I don't know if I approve of it being in media. At least like kids shows, that's a bit weird.
I feel like kids shows that are geared towards
It depends
kids
on what their age
who
group
are
is.
about to have their period, like
Yeah.
that kind of age group, like 10 to like.
But here's the thing
10
too, is
plus.
like you could say kid show, but like, there's no way in our society to really, because like a kid can get online,
Yeah.
and just watch
Absolutely.
anything.
Yeah, but like
I'd
I
rather
think-
have it presented in a healthy way.
I was about to say I would rather have either like a class present it or a parent present it. I think a lot of the problems when it comes to like kids not understanding things like sexual education and stuff till they're older comes down to the parents, and so I think parents need to be more open to that
Yeah.
culturally. But I don't know if I would go as far as to say, oh yeah, let's throw these concepts into media that kids
that's
can
what I'm
interact
saying
with.
is it has nothing to do with sexual health, and it just is a health
It is literally
topic.
it's just a health topic. Yeah.
It is just a health
It's
topic,
like-
and I hate when periods get compared to sex education, because it is a completely separate
And if you don't treat
it's a
it right,
separate
then like
issue.
you could get sick.
Because absolutely, you can get horribly ill if you're not like changing your period products often enough, and you can die.
Yeah.
Like it's a serious problem.
Yeah, it's not.
And it's like kids need to be educated about it from a young age before they get their periods. And so that is like 9 years old. My little sister is 9, and she already is like, yeah, I'm gonna have puberty soon.
I was about to say, like, I remember back in like 4th, 5th grade, we'd have these health textbooks. Like, they should slip stuff like about periods into those. I think that'd be a perfect age to
It's
do it.
one of those things where how do you educate whenever you know that certain materials will never reach a kid? It's like I don't necessarily think there's ever going to be like the perfect way.
Absolutely
you
not,
know,
yeah.
it's only going to be good enough ways.
Yeah.
And like I never read my health textbook in middle school.
No.
Like my teacher didn't read it either, and he just told us not to drink weed. He was like, "Don't do weed. You'll crash a car or something."
Yeah. Another thing is, I think we should normalize period products and start calling them period products instead of like feminine hygiene or like women's products or something like that, because there are people that have periods that aren't women. And so just calling them period products. Normalize the word period. Normalize having free period products available. Normalize free protection, but that's a whole other issue.
The only thing I squeamish around blood. So
That's
it's
fair.
like for me it's just like this is just a complaint particularly from my older sister. Please change the bathroom lighter, man. I don't like blood. It make me lightheaded and faint.
Yeah.
That's it. But I also I'm not like how dare you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's how it's just like I don't like blood as a general principle.
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right, I do think this is a good time to
Yeah.
sign off. Let's talk about something a little bit more lighthearted, though.
Periods are lighthearted.
But you know what's truly
But they hurt.
You know what's
They
truly
do.
You know what's truly lighthearted though? That we could talk about.
What?
What's something really dark that we could talk about? I was gonna have
Bluey.
juxtaposition.
Did you say Bluey?
Yes.
I don't want to talk about
Bluey! I love Bluey! Oh,
See,
I was watching that just
I don't
last
think
night.
periods should be in Bluey. I don't think periods should be in Bluey.
Yeah.
But like an older kids TV show.
Man, I love Bluey. It makes me want to be a dad. I say that every time I talk about Bluey, but it
I'm trying to
does.
think, like, what
I've never
age
seen
is
an
Bluey?
episode of
What,
Bluey.
what age is Bluey really geared for? I think it's geared for people who wish they had better parents.
It's geared for all audiences. That's definitely
I've actually
an
never
audience.
seen an episode, actually.
People who want to be parents,
watch.
people who wanted better parents, young kids.
Parents.
I do love the episodes that are like more focused on the parents and the kids, because they're just like you see the parents struggling to learn how to like parent, right?
Yeah, it's
and
interesting.
trying out different things and working off of each
I'll
other.
tell you what, I had a big dad urge earlier from Red Dead Redemption 2, which is where we were
Oh my
supposed
god,
to see
that's
it.
wild.
Well, because Arthur Morgan takes there's like a kid in the camp.
Oh, okay.
And he takes the kid out fishing, and he's just super nice to him and very positive. He's like, "Am I doing good, Uncle Arthur?" He's like, "You're doing good, son." And I'm like, that's perfection right there.
I love it. Yeah, whenever kids come into the shop, I'm like,
It's like,
Can I
want to
take?
steal- it's bad. I have like such like maternal instincts, and I'm like, can I just not? I'm not an adult yet. I know I am, but like I'm also not.
Oh no!
And something, and I think this is like, I'll just say it briefly because something that it kind of showed me is like you could be traditionally masculine, but also like positive towards your kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
you
Like
can.
those are not like being masculine doesn't mean you're like don't be positive towards your kid.
Being a good, strong man does not mean you hate your kid.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that. Like, I think a lot of men are like, I
Yeah.
can't show weakness and I can't show emotion.
I'm so
Yeah.
glad my dad was not that way. His dad was, but my dad was not that way.
Yeah, it's like, and I think that's just like, because there is good masculinity and there's toxic masculinity.
Yep.
And I think that people conflate some of the traits of toxic masculinity as being positive.
Yeah. No.
I also don't like.
I wish more guys could like talk about their emotions and like I wish I want to normalize calling angry men emotional Because they
Yeah,
so long
very
have
fair.
men been like, oh my gosh, women are so emotional, and I'm like, you're so emotional for being angry.
Yeah, that's very true. There are some men out there who are like
Some men try to legitimately say anger isn't an emotion.
humans.
And I'm like,
humans,
huh?
as a blanket statement, are emotional.
Yes.
That's not a bad thing.
No, that is actually a very positive thing because that helps us connect.
In my church, we always say emotions are God-given.
It's in the Buddhist tradition to say emotions are what happens to you, and you choose what you do with them.
Emotions are a gauge, not a guide.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what we also say in my church. But
All right, team.
Yeah,
Thank you for
this has
watching.
been a good thing. Big long episode.
yes, very
I
good.
think it's a big bong episode.
No, big long.
All right,
episode.
guys, get out the purple dragon deluxe supreme.
What? I was blowing a cloud.
I know. I'm making faces at his purple deluxe dragon supreme or whatever.
I'm sure you could find a strain that was named that nowadays.
Oh, is that supposed to be the name of the strain? I thought it was the name of the bong.
Both.
Okay.
Could you
They
imagine-
come together as a package.
Yeah.
Yes, you get
You
the
get the
strain.
bong and
Even the lighter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The
That
lighter
sounds
has a
like
purple
a
dragon.
vape thing, not a weed thing.
Yeah, that does.
It sounds like
actually.
you could definitely find a vape that's like shaped like a dragon out
Oh,
there.
absolutely.
It's named.
But I mean, you can also find pipes and bongs that are like more. You can find more pipes and bongs that are fun shapes than vape stuff.
Nifty.
Yeah.
I've been into vape. I've been into smoke shops a number of times with my older sister.
Interesting.
Like, she just like, I gotta go pick up my stuff, and I'm like, okay.
Hmm.
Also,
My stuff.
and I know I keep bringing up topics. We will end it right now.
Yeah,
but,
we got it.
Smoke shops are a surprising like source of not surprising, but like smoke shops close down all the time because they often like deal with minors and stuff and like commit crime.
Yeah,
Like I heard about one where like they like apparently like there was like a homicide on the premises.
I told you about that one. It was a
that the
vape
one you
shop.
told me
Yeah,
about? Oh
it
my
was
gosh.
the Callaway's one. Yeah.
That's what life is crazy. Okay,
Yeah,
you can
it
turn
wasn't
off.
a homicide though. It was the kid was just shot, but she didn't die.
You're doing the Jax Films thing.
Okay, that's enough. I'll shut up. It was fun being here. Bye.
The law. I don't want to get cut off saying something. Please
Yeah.
help her.